My family was cursed and abducted. The sinister truth I discovered will haunt you forever. Sarah Johnson couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked beneath the surface of Oak Ridge. The air was heavy with secrets, and as she watched her children play in the backyard, laughter echoing in the stillness, a chill crept down her spine. Families had vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by this glossy suburban oasis. And behind every manicured lawn stood a shadow, whispers brushing against her ears like dead leaves in autumn. Just last week, she'd been working the night shift at the diner, pouring coffee and serving greasy fries, when Jenna, her late husband's ex, had called. The urgency in Jenna's voice sent jolts through Sarah's weary body. It's a curse, Sarah. Something dark, it haunts our bloodline. Sarah dismissed Jenna's warnings, a frantic woman fueled by caffeine and paranoia. But back at home, the creaks of the house began to sound like whispers, and in the corners of her vision, shadows slinked away. It was enough to keep her heart racing. The more Sarah tried to ignore it, the louder her instincts screamed at her. One night, a soft giggle from the living room pulled her from sleep. She found her kids Maddie and little Jake giggling and playing games that felt far too unnatural. Their eyes glinted with an energy that didn't belong to them. She shivered, questioning her sanity. Then, in the cruel grip of a sweaty summer night, they disappeared. Just gone. Their playdate had turned into a frantic search that led her to the sheriff's office, but the indifference in the sheriff's eyes cut deeper than any blade. Kids are always running off, ma'am. No need to worry. What? They weren't just lost. Panic wrapped around her throat like a noose. Alone, she stumbled through Oak Ridge, a town with smiling faces and friendly waves that felt forced, sinister. The precious security provided by her neighbors was an illusion, and the laughter she had once cherished now clawed at her sanity. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each night was punctuated by creeping terror. Blood-like symbols marred her front door like a warning, each stroke the last gasp of hope. Whispering winds beckoned to her, beckoning her further down the rabbit hole. She'd seen the connections, cornfield rituals, disappearing families, and the more she dug, the clearer it became. The sheriff, the town's beloved figure, was ensnared in her family's cursed legacy. Just when she thought the horrors could not grow darker, she felt them, the eyes of her friendly neighbors growing heavy with malice. There was no comfort here, no safety. She was being watched. She knew that as sure as the moon hung low in the sky, they wanted something from her, something that sent a shiver of dread spiraling through her veins. As the shadows closed in, and her heart pounded with desperation, she realized that she had to confront the truth. But what horror awaited her when she peeled back the layers? Would she uncover a family unfathomable in its scope, or would it be herself etched into the sinister history of Oak Ridge? With panic clawing at her, Sarah knew she was running out of time. The darkness was thickening, and she could almost hear the whispers growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. Would she find her children, or would she become another lost soul, swallowed by the secrets of Oak Ridge? Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps as she sprinted through the dimly lit streets of Oak Ridge. The shadows seemed to reach out, clawing at her with icy fingers. Every house was a looming specter, whispering secrets she wasn't meant to hear. And the laughter of her children echoed in her mind, a mocking reminder of their absence. She couldn't go home. Not yet. Their disappearance gnawed at her heart, a relentless pain that urged her to uncover the truth lurking in the darkness. Just steps away from her front door, she hesitated, the blood-red symbols still vivid in her mind. Something had to be done. Driven by desperation, Sarah turned toward the old abandoned house at the end of Elm Street. It had never been homesick, rather, it was a ghost of a home, a skeletal structure with broken windows like sunken eyes glaring out at her. The townsfolk said it was cursed, though Sarah never believed that nonsense. But now? Now she needed a reason to believe in something, anything, that could lead her to Maddie and Jake. The door creaked open as she pushed. The hinges squealed in protest, sending shivers rippling down her spine. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust motes that danced in the slivers of moonlight slicing through the grime. Her heart raced faster, adrenaline coursing through her veins, urging her deeper into the suffocating darkness. "Mommy," a whisper floated through the air, a soft sound that froze Sarah in place. "Help us!" Her blood turned cold. It was them. But where were they? The sound had come from upstairs. With no time to waste, she climbed the stairs, every creak a warning of the danger lurking ahead. The shadows danced along the walls, taunting her as she moved closer to the source of the voice. "Mommy!" It came again, stronger this time, and the hope surged within her, fighting against the grip of despair. She pushed open a door at the end of the hall. Light spilled out, warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the suffocating void of the house. Inside, however, was a room filled with old toys and dusty furniture, a nursery frozen in time. Crumpled photographs littered the floor, and through the haze, she could distinguish faces from families long gone, their eyes vacant and hollow. A chill wind swept through as the door slammed behind her. She whirled around, heart pounding, when she saw them, Maddie and Jake, standing at the far end of the room. They looked different, though. Their smiles held an unsettling edge, almost unnatural. "Mommy, we've been waiting." They floated closer, their movements silent and strange. No, this isn't right." Panic surged through her. They weren't her children anymore, not really. The warmth in their eyes had been eclipsed, replaced by something ancient and dark. The shadows coiled around them, whispering words she couldn't comprehend, all the while drawing them closer, closer. "Help us," Maddie cooed, but the tone was all wrong. Ice sliced through Sarah's heart as understanding dawned. Whatever had taken her children had twisted them, warped their voices into something sinister. The curse wasn't just a legend, it lived, breathed, and thrived in Oak Ridge. The walls around her seemed to close in, suffocating her with dread. In that moment, she realized that she too was ensnared in a web of secrets, just like the families before her. The history of Oak Ridge was not just the past, it was the present, dragging her down into its dark abyss. "Maddie!" She cried out, desperation pouring from her lips as the shadows surged forward, enveloping her in an icy embrace. The laughter of the children echoed, more menacing than before as Sarah fumbled for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The weight of Oak Ridge pressed down, bearing unbearable truths she couldn't escape. What would she sacrifice to save her children? With her heart racing against the void, she summoned every bit of strength left in her. The whispers grew louder, drowning her in despair. And as darkness swirled around her, a single thought gripped her: what if the only way to save her family was to embrace the curse herself? As flickering shadows closed in, an eerie silence settled, leaving her gasping in the void. What lay beyond this threshold? Freedom or damnation? The answer lingered just out of reach. The cold seeped into Sarah's bones, wrapping around her like a shroud. She clawed at the door, frantic, each thud of her heart echoing louder than the laughter that slithered around her. The shadows whispered promises of despair, scraping against her conscience as she fought to block out their insistent calls. "Maddie! Jake!" Her voice trembled, breaking under the weight of dread. The nursery, once inviting, now loomed ominously, each piece of furniture seeming to lean in closer, eager to engulf her in its memories. Suddenly, the floorboards groaned beneath her, a low warning rumble that sent a spike of terror through her. She stumbled back, every instinct screaming at her to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The children moved closer, their figures contorting in the dim light, shadows flickering like candle flames in a wind. "Mommy, don't you want to join us?" Jake's voice taunted, now dripping with something dark and twisted. The innocence she remembered was gone, replaced by an eerie calmness that chilled her. "No! This isn't you!" Sarah shouted, her own voice betraying her resolve. The air grew thicker, pressing down as if the house itself was alive and feeding off her fear. A hint of movement flickered past her peripheral vision, and she turned just in time to catch a glimpse of a dark figure lurking in the corner of the room, obscured by swirling shadows. It hung there, watching. The figure radiated malevolence, a wave of dread washing over her as it whispered her name, a sound like shuffling leaves in a graveyard. Panic surged, and she lunged toward the door again, pounding it with her fists. "Why wouldn't it open? Maddie!" The plea fell from her lips like a desperate prayer, but the only response was a cold chuckle that echoed hauntingly in the nursery's eerie quiet. A flicker of light caught her eye, reflecting off a grimy mirror hung crookedly on the wall. It revealed a twisted version of the room, darker and more sinister. The children smirked in the mirror, their eyes glinting with a hunger that sent a shudder down her spine. It wasn't just a reflection, the mirror was a portal, drawing her toward it, promising an end to her struggle. "Join us, Mommy. You've been chosen," the whisper echoed, filling the void with the weight of an ancient command. Her heart raced, hands shaking as she took a step back, almost drawn to the glass. The shadows flickered, their hold on Maddie and Jake weakening, just enough for her to sense the remnants of her children beneath the surface. Desperation surged again. "You're not lost. Fight it!" she cried, but the words slipped uselessly into the darkness, fading like mist. Maddie's face, once so familiar, twisted in uncertainty, mixed emotions battling just beneath the surface. Sarah couldn't leave them, she wouldn't abandon her kids again. "Is it worth it?" the dark figure crooned, its presence clawing at her mind. A choice loomed, but the weight of it crushed her spirit. She could save herself, slip into that beckoning shadow and escape the horror. Yet, a thought struck her, was that really freedom, or was it a prison of a different kind? "Come play with us forever," Maddie urged softly, the words curling around Sonic's heart as she stepped closer to the mirror, hands outstretched. "No!" Sarah screamed, refusing to be lured into the abyss. She turned toward the mirror and, summoning every ounce of courage, reached out with trembling fingers, desperate to pull her children back from the brink. As her fingertips brushed the surface, the glass rippled like water, sucking her in. She gasped, falling against the mirror, absorbing the reflection of her children trapped behind the dark barrier. All at once, the room shattered into unseen whispers and sinister shadows, a cacophony of lost souls surrounding her. The walls shook violently, blurring reality with the weight of her decision. Would she break the curse, or would she succumb to the darkness like those before her? As the children beckoned her further into the mirror's grasp, a chilling realization gripped her. She stood at the edge of something far more profound than the curse of Oak Ridge. The depth of her love was at stake, and she realized that she might have to trade more than she bargained for. Just then, cracks began to form in the mirror, splintering the fragile barrier between worlds, releasing a flood of dark, twisted laughter. "It's just the beginning, Sarah." What would happen next? Would she dive into darkness in a bid to save her children, or would she find a way to break the chains that bound them? As the shadows surged, she took a deep breath, knowing the answers lay deep within the heart of Oak Ridge, one way or another. The world twisted around Sarah as the mirror shattered, its shards scattering like angry fireflies through the air. Each fragment glinted with a reflection of her own terrified face and something else. Darkness clashed with the light, creating a dance of horror that ensnared her. Fear surged through her veins, igniting instincts she had buried under layers of motherhood. She clawed at the edges of the mirror, fighting against the pull. The laughter, a dreadful chorus of her children's voices, enveloped her. "Mommy, we just want to play. Forever. Stop. You're not my children," she shouted, the words slipping from her, half a plea, half an assertion. The landscape around her shifted, the nursery faded to darkness, and instead, she was swept into a hallway. Long, dimly lit, with peeling wallpaper that seemed to breathe, it felt like a pipeline leading her deeper into the nightmare of Oak Ridge. Whispered secrets slithered through the air, each step growing heavier as if the floor were made of thick, cold mud. A door flickered to life at the end of the hall, framed in a sickly green glow. She hesitated, the children's silhouettes danced beyond the glass, beckoning her. "Don't go, Mommy." Their voices melted into nightmarish tones, twisting her name. Suddenly, the dark figure appeared again, its features cloaked in shadows but eyes burning like coals. "Why resist, Sarah? This is where you belong." A heavy dread settled in her stomach. Could it be true? This burden of motherhood felt suffocating. But she hadn't given up. She came to save them. Yet every instinct screamed for her to flee. She took a step back, but the walls pressed in, shrinking the space with an agonizing quickness. "Choose, Sarah. Join us or be trapped forever." The figure laughed, a low, throaty sound that echoed through the hall like a death knell. It reached out, blackened fingers curling like smoke into the air, and she felt its icy grip teasing the edges of her consciousness. Understand this: every soul tethered to Oak Ridge is bound by choice. Yours will push the scales, it promised, the shadows trembling in anticipation. The air thickened, wrapping around her like tendrils of fog. The figures of Jake and Maddie appeared in the corners of her mind, desperate and yet sinister, a reflection of innocence long lost. She felt a sharp stab of sorrow. "What did you do to them?" she cried, rising anger cutting through the paralyzing fear. "They chose," the voice whispered, laced with triumph. "And soon, you will too." Shadows writhed, pulling Sarah toward the door, an irresistible force threatening to break her resistance. "No!" She clawed at the floor, nails scraping against the wood until they bled. The world darkened around her, blurring the line between her heart and the house's sinister grasp. Then, from within the tumult, a flicker of light sparkled in the depths of her memory, something, a memory of laughter and warmth. It felt so distant, yet so near. "Focus, Sarah." The light grew brighter, bursting forth as she recalled every moment of joy spent with her children. "I refuse. You won't take them." As she screamed, a pulse of energy ricocheted through her, a force of love so strong that it shattered the suffocating darkness. The figure shrieked, recoiling. Cracks began forming in the walls, a desperation rising among the shadows that had once seemed invincible. In the chaos of swirling darkness, she could see an escape route, glimmering with light. But it wasn't easy to reach. The shadows writhed angrily, grasping at her limbs, pulling her back, trying to drown the desire to save her children in layers of dread. "Run!" An echo of a long-lost voice shouted, sending a jolt through her. It wasn't just her children's voice, it was the thread connecting their lives, their love intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. With all her strength, she lunged toward the light, the door swinging open before her. But just as she crossed the threshold, she felt a vice grip on her ankle, pulling her back to the accursed threshold. "You're never free, Sarah." Would she make it out, or would she be ensnared forever in this monstrous cycle? As the shadows pressed forward, Sarah braced herself, the flickering light guiding her through the darkness, but something pulled her back, something dark and familiar. A sudden, chilling realization gripped her. What if the true curse wasn't the house, but something far closer? Would her blood also bind her to the horrors of Oak Ridge, or would she shatter them for good? It lingered, the question weaving in and out of her frantic mind, the answer lying buried deep within the shadows she was so desperately fleeing. In a whirl of light, Sarah tumbled through the doorway. The weight of her fear saturated her like a dense fog. She landed hard on the floor of a new room, and the brilliance behind her quickly dimmed. Shadows darted around her, shimmering and swirling like sinister fish in murky waters. She gasped, heart pounding, glancing over her shoulder to see the jagged light of the doorway flicker before vanishing entirely. She was alone. "Mommy?" The voice came again, soft and laced with despair. It snaked through the darkened room, pulling at her heart. "Where are you?" It was Jake's voice, unmistakable, yet threaded with an unholy echo. "Jake!" she shouted, but silence swallowed her words. She pressed her palms against the floor, cool and solid, fighting the instinct to flee. The room was small, filled with child-sized furniture, but the atmosphere buzzed with menace. An old toy train lay forgotten in the corner, wheels rusted and tracks warped as if time and despair had smeared their existence. It felt like a mausoleum built from shattered dreams. "Mommy, come play with us. Please." Maddie's voice chimed in from somewhere beyond view. "No!" Sarah screamed, shaking her head as if denial could erase the grasp of the shadows lurking around her. She stumbled back, trying to find a corner to hide in, but the walls pressed closer, mocking her panic. Images of her children flooded back, smiling faces, laughter ringing in warm sunlight. She clung to those memories like a lifeline. "I won't let you take them," she shouted, the fierceness in her voice surprising even herself. Laughter erupted from the shadows, a cacophony of whispers and giggles that clawed at her sanity. "You already did, Sarah." The dark figure loomed, standing in the periphery of her vision, its form shifting like smoke. "You chose your comfort over them. You let the darkness guide you." "No, I'd never," she protested, but the shadows tightened their hold, slithering through her thoughts, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Could it be true? Had she wished them away in her weakest moments? "Mommy, we just want to be together." The cries morphed, growing desperate and haunting. The walls pulsed with energy, flickers of light battling the encroaching dark, a violent struggle that mirrored her own internal chaos. "Stop!" she cried, fingers clutching her hair as she sank to her knees. "If I have to choose, I choose them." The shadows recoiled, forming into specter-like figures that swirled around her like a tempest. "You can't. They are part of the curse. Just like you." The ground ripped apart beneath her, opening a gaping chasm that spiraled downward, revealing swirling dark depths. She teetered at the edge, fear gripping her heart as more voices echoed up from the abyss. The whispers of lost souls intertwining with her children's screams, blending chaos and familiarity into a dreadful medley of despair. "Join us, Sarah," the voice was taunting, a dark promise filled with twisted affection. "Embrace the curse. Your choices have led you here. And yet, you resist." From the void, a flicker of light surged again. Hope? Resilience? She couldn't tell anymore. But she felt it pulsed beneath the darkness, beckoning to her. It was a memory, one half-formed but vibrant, full of warmth. She could hear her children laughing. That laughter carried a strength that outweighed the terror clawing at her sides. With a surge of rage and determination, she thrust herself backward away from the edge. "No!" she roared. Her will ignited fire in her veins, pushing the shadows away. They lunged, thick darkness trying to pull her back, but this time she fought back with every ounce of her being. The air shimmered. The darkness yelled in agony. "Fight it, Sarah! Leave us!" The voices screamed together, merging into one. In the throes of her panic, she realized something chilling. The shadows weren't just a manifestation of fear, they were part of her own darkness mirroring back at her. Exhaling deeply, she steadied herself. She couldn't abandon her children, nor could she become the very horror that pursued her. "In the end, it's about love," Sarah whispered, a declaration of defiance against the cold grip of despair. But just as she felt the grip loosening, something icy and twisted wrapped around her heart, pulling her back to the brink of the chasm. "Your love will be your undoing." Shadows cackled, eyes glimmering like dying stars. As the room around her swirled into madness, she realized the truth. The choice wasn't just to save them, it was to confront her own demons. Would she find the strength to escape the darkness within and save her family? Or would she be lost forever, becoming one of them? The thought wrapped around her, relentless, as the darkness pressed closer. The ground trembled as Sarah felt the cold tendrils of the shadows twisting tighter around her heart. She gritted her teeth, fighting to focus her mind, grappling with guilt and terror as they gnawed at her resolve. "I won't succumb," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the cacophony of lost souls wailing from the chasm. "Embrace the truth." The whispers taunted, echoing through the room like a cracked mirror reflecting her worst fears. "Face your failures. Jake and Maddie are where they are because of you. Stop. Stop." She yelled, but the shadows surged, more insistent, more angry. They clawed at her, trying to pull her apart. With her mind racing, she recalled their last family game night, laughter spilling over as they played in the living room, the warmth of their joy filling the house like sunshine. Suddenly, the image warped, her children fading into silhouettes amidst the shadows, their faces twisted in anguish. "Mommy," Jake's voice resonated. "Why did you abandon us?" "No!" Sarah cried, gripping her head, struggling to keep the memories from distorting further. She steeled herself, pushing against the malevolence wrapping around her like chains. "I'm coming for you. I will save you." Then, an unexpected clarity struck. The pulsing light she had felt earlier surged within her, illuminating pieces of the darkness. "If I'm part of this, then I can control it," she thought fiercely. She remembered how she used to tell stories to the kids, weaving tales of bravery and resilience. "Enough!" She shouted into the shadows, an electric current surging through her as she embraced the warmth of those memories. "You don't own me. You won't take my children." The dark figures howled, retreating as she stood firm, commanding the shadows to listen. "Jake! Maddie! Can you hear me?" The swirling dark began to thin, revealing glimpses of movements beyond her reach. Shadows coiled in anticipation, but they hesitated. For the first time, Sarah felt she was pushing against them, a tidal force fueled by maternal love. "Together we can break this curse," she shouted, inspiring courage into the deepest corners of her spirit. "We will fight. Together." A gust of wind rippled through, and she could hear the pitter-patter of tiny feet behind the veil of darkness. "Mommy! Help!" screamed Maddie, echoing back to her, stronger this time, infused with hope. The resonance of her children's voices pierced through like a lifeline thrown into the abyss. But the shadows didn't yield completely. "You think you can fight us? You are part of this now. They are lost, and so shall you be." Their voices became mocking, seething with malice. The walls of the room began to shake violently, like a storm caught in a tempest. As the darkness threatened to envelop her entirely, Sarah closed her eyes, concentrating deeply on her love for her children. "I choose love. I choose them," she screamed, and with that, she thrust her arms forward. Luminous energy burst forth from within her, pushing the shadows back, creating a pathway through the suffocating dark. She could feel it, the connection, the pulse of her children resonating alongside her own. "Keep going," a voice inside her urged, the flickering memory of Jake and Maddie's love propelling her forward. The shadow snarled, retreating, screeching in agony as they were torn asunder. But then, horrifying realization slammed into her. This isn't over. The ground cracked wider, revealing a wider chasm, swirling with wrath. A dark figure began to take shape before her, more defined and sinister than the rest. "You think you can win this, Sarah?" it hissed, eyes blazing with ancient evil. "You're still part of the curse." Before she could respond, the darkness lunged at her, the grip tightening, dragging her back toward the edge. She was seconds away from being consumed, fighting against waves of despair as she thought of her children. As Sarah neared the brink, the figure's voice echoed once more, chilling her to the bone. "Love and despair are the same thing here. What will you choose?" The ground shook violently, and her heart raced. Would she let herself be pulled into this abyss, becoming another lost soul, or could she summon enough strength to fight back once more? The choice hung in the air like a sword poised above her head, and she was left to wonder, what truly lay ahead? The shadows surged, an overwhelming tide that clawed at her ankles, dragging her toward the gaping maw of darkness. Sarah gasped, struggling against the pull, her heart hammering. She couldn't let it take her. Not now, not when she had fought so hard. "Fight, Sarah. Remember them." The voice of her children rang in her ears, reverberating against the walls of despair. She clenched her fists, the warmth of her memories igniting a fire within her. "I will not become one of you." The dark figure loomed closer, its features twisting and writhing like black smoke. "You cannot defeat what you have become." It hissed, tendrils of shadow spilling from its mouth, reaching for her. The stench of decay and despair filled the air, suffocating her. Sarah's breath quickened, mind racing. She clung to every memory of Jake and Maddie, their laughter, their tiny hands in hers, the nights spent telling stories under a blanket fort. Each clear thought pulsed with life against the impending darkness. "You don't understand," she spat, a newfound strength coursing through her. "I will save them. I will save me." She dug her heels into the ground, pushing against the darkness. The shadows around her vibrated with rage, they shrieked and writhed, recoiling as the energy from within her expanded. She felt a buzz, like static electricity crackling in the air. "I won't let you win," she screamed, forcing herself back from the edge. With the last remnants of her strength, she thrust her arms wide apart, envisioning a radiant shield separating her from the creeping dread. Light erupted from within her, blinding brightness illuminating the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. The figure howled, recoiling, its form beginning to dissolve in the brilliance of her fierce love. The very walls shook, disintegrating into dust, revealing glimpses of another world beyond the world where her kids were lost. "Mommy! Please!" The anguish in her children's voices sharpened her focus. "Hold on." Driven by desperation, she summoned every ounce of her being. "Jake! Maddie!" she called, pouring her essence into her words. follow my voice. No matter where you are, I will find you." The shadows shrieked, trying to silence her, but their victory was waning. As the torment retreated, the space around her pulsated with light, twisting and bending the darkness into forms of anguish, but just as hope flooded her heart and a pathway began to form, a rumble echoed through the chamber. The ground began to quake violently, fissures opening beneath her feet, revealing spiraling voids threatening to drag her back. "Your love is your weakness." The figure snarled, its voice a mix of contempt and desperation. "You will lose everything." Sarah's heart raced as the earth cracked. "I have nothing to lose," she roared back, feeling the fierce defiance rising within her. "You've already taken it all." With a burst of strength, she leaped toward the fading whispers of her children, the light surrounding her becoming a beacon in the chaos. But in an instant, something cold coiled around her ankle, dragging her down as the figure leaned forward, its eyes glinting with malice. "You cannot escape the truth of your own making, Sarah." The shadow swept up her body, wrestling against the glow that surrounded her, but she felt the flicker of her children's hope pulsing alongside her. Then, in that breathless moment, the world tilted, and her vision blurred. She could either succumb to the pull of despair or trust in the flickering flame of love that guided her. "Show them," the dark figure rasped, hissing words like poison through gritted teeth. "Show them the truth of what you really are," and just like that, the light dimmed. Sarah gasped, feeling the tendrils squeezing tighter, the darkness inching closer. Panic surged within her, the truth was looming, but what truth? As she teetered on the edge of that yawning chasm, a haunting question hung in the air: what darkness lurked just beneath the surface of her memories? Would she break free to save her children, or would she plunge into the abyss, facing the sinister truth behind their curse? The void beckoned, and she had only moments left to decide. The grip of shadows tightened around Sarah's ankle, pulling her down into the gnawing darkness. The light that had burned so fiercely within her flickered, threatened to snuff out completely. She forced herself to focus, to breathe through the rising panic. There had to be a way. There had to be something she could grasp, something to anchor her in this chaos. As she descended, visions flickered through her mind, memories displayed like a haunting slideshow. Jake in his favorite dinosaur pajamas, the way Maddie's face lit up when she saw the first snow. But alongside these precious moments were darker flashes, images of her failures as a mother. The times she'd yelled, the moments she had chosen work over play, the times she had let her darkness seep into their lives. The familiar weight of guilt clawed at her heart, an unwelcome companion. "You see?" The figure's voice slithered through the dark, oozing satisfaction. "You are a creature formed of weakness and regret, nothing more." Each word sent a chill racing down her spine. No. She refused to be defined by her mistakes. "They're wrong," she shouted back, clenching her jaw. "I am more than my failures." With a surge of forced resolve, she gripped the memories of her children harder, calling on them like a lifeline. Images of their laughter became tangible, transforming into bright orbs that surrounded her. In a moment of clarity, Sarah envisioned those moments as her armor, the very essence of who she was: an imperfect mother, yes, but one who loved fiercely. The shadows screamed in protest, the icy tendrils around her tightening even further, but this time she didn't hold back. Drawing strength from the very depths of her love, she wrenched herself free from their grasp, pulling herself back up with a fierce cry. The darkness recoiled as beams of light burst from her heart, illuminating the chamber. "Jake! Maddie!" She screamed into the void, her voice echoing like thunder. "I won't let you down. I will find you." And just like that, as if her love spread through the air like ripples on water, she felt them faint echoes responding to her call. The ground beneath her stabilized, the chasm shrank, and for the first time, the shadows hesitated, their malice diminishing momentarily. "You think you can win?" The figure howled, scrambling backward as if burned. "Your children will never be yours again." But she could feel them. The soft sparks of hope igniting in the distance, urges to come closer, to reach her. Within the light, she could even sense their presence, their essence intertwining with hers. Yet as she pushed forward, determined to break through the last barrier, a sudden shift in the air made her skin prickle. The walls warped, twisted with dread, and a new voice emerged from the depths of the shadows, one deeper, darker, filled with a chilling familiarity. Sarah, it murmured, the whisper crawling into her mind like a tarantula. It was a voice she had not heard in years, yet one that called to the very core of her being. The voice of her own mother, long past, but tinged with an unsettling hunger. You were never meant to escape. You belong here, with us. The shadows throbbed as if resonating with her mother's words, the darkness coiling, eager to wrap itself around Sarah, promising comfort. And for a fleeting moment, dread washed over her, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. What did her mother mean? What unimaginable truth lay buried? With her heart in her throat, Sarah pushed against the suffocating chill. No! I will not fall victim to this. She shouted, desperation fueling her strength. Want me? Then face my light. But even as the illumination radiated from her, the shadows writhed anew, as if sensing their own impending defeat. Sarah felt her footing slipping again, reminded of the void's alluring call. What claws of despair would this new voice reveal? What was the connection between the past her mother represented and her children's fate? The abyss surged up around her, hungry and relentless. And in the heart of the storm, she could only gulp down her fear as the truth became maddeningly clear. The decision loomed ahead, but time was running out. Would she reach the light before the shadow closed in, or would the dark promise of the past swallow her whole? The darkness trembled, teetering between fear and fury, as Sarah fought back with every ounce of her being. She felt fleeting warmth seep back into her skin, yet the shadows snarled and whipped around her like wild serpents, threatening to drain that light away. The murmur of her mother's voice lingered, unnerving and seductive. Together, we can be whole again, it whispered, echoing through the void, entwined with memories of childhood hugs and bedtime stories that now felt tainted. Doubt clawed at her. Could she truly trust the light she clung to when it was shadowed by uncertainty? No! She bellowed, grounding herself with fierce determination. She visualized her children, the way their laughter filled the house, their innocent faces crinkling with delight. I can't let this happen. I won't lose them. The air strained, thick with the tension of her resolve. Suddenly, a blinding white flash surged from her heart, slicing through the oppressive gloom. It illuminated the chamber as if dawn had shattered the night, momentarily forcing the shadows to recoil. Sarah felt a surge of hope, but then a realization struck. The light felt fragile, as if it could shatter like glass. Sarah! The malevolent figure hissed once more. You think your weak will can save you? No one escapes this dark truth. Not even your precious children. As the shadows threatened to wrap around her throat, piercing screams echoed from all directions. Were those her children? Panic exploded inside her, but a product of that fear transformed into clarity. It wasn't just her love that could repel the darkness, but her memories, the good and the bad. They needed each other, needed to be confronted. With shaking fingers, she touched the string of light pulsating in her chest. They need to see me. They need to know they aren't alone. She cried, amplifying her voice with every ounce of will. The light flickered, pulsating to the rhythm of her heart, summoning the laughter of her children, weaving through the shadows like a warm breeze. Again, the cries reverberated, more distinct now. Mommy! They were real. They needed her. Follow my voice. She yelled, hold my light. Her heart raced, each beat puncturing the darkness, hoping that it would reach them, each pulse a tether connecting them through the veil of despair. But the shadows howled in rage, shifting almost sentient, aiming to suffocate her cries. You're tethering them to destruction. You will watch them suffer. Just as she moved forward, a cold wind whipped past her, bringing with it the unmistakable scent of childhood cookies baking, the smell of books, sunshine on summertime grass. They were the fragments of memories that defined her past, sacred and pure, a path lit by love. With newfound fury, she hurled her light deeper into the shadows, igniting the room, illuminating faces that emerged from the murk. It was Jake and Maddie, their eyes wide, brimming with fear but alive. Mom! They yelled, their voices intertwined with the flickering shadows, but then, a sharp laughter split the air, dripping with malice. You can't save them, Sarah. You're all part of this curse now. It was her mother again. The figure loomed in the backdrop, merging with shadow, revealing twisted eyes dedicated to tearing apart the vision of unity. A fury swelled in Sarah, igniting her light in a fierce blaze. This ends now! She screamed, charging forward. But as she moved, the icy grips of despair slithered back, threatening to pull her into the depths once more. Mommy! Jake's voice sliced through her, raw with desperation. At that moment, she realized the final piece: the past she had buried, the pain she thought might diminish them, could also save them. But was she ready to expose all her wounds, to confront the very fabric of sorrow that wove her family's legacy? Hold on, my loves! She shouted, pulling all her strength together, recalling every joyful moment, every sorrowful dawn. She embraced both, ready to conquer the darkness once and for all. But as the shadows lunged, a blinding light erupted like a supernova, encompassing everything, leaving her breathless and utterly enshrouded in chaos. Then, silence. Had she finally conquered her fears, or was this just the beginning of an ever-deepening abyss? The question lingered thick in the air. What awaited her on the other side of this darkness? The silence was deafening, an eerie hush that enveloped Sarah as she stood in the void, trembling fingers clutching at remnants of light. But in that breathless quiet, a sensation sparked to life within her, a shimmering thread of hope that wove through the shadows, intertwining with her heart. Mommy! Their voices rang out, bright and clear, cutting through the stillness. Jake and Maddie were close, she could feel it in her bones. Help us! Fuel surged through her as each syllable ignited the fire within. I'm coming! Hold on! She shouted, fear morphing into fierce determination. The dark figure still loomed, but its shadow diminished, quivering at the strength of her love that surged like a tide. The ground trembled beneath her feet as she took a step forward. You think you can break us? It hissed, venom oozing from every word. You're just a reflection of your failures. They're lost, forever. No! Sarah roared, her voice a battle cry as she pushed her hand forward, summoning the light that flickered within. It blazed brighter, shattering the darkness like glass under immense pressure. The cold tendrils recoiled, shrieking in agony as warmth flooded the space around her. In an explosion of vibrant energy, the visions of her children revealed themselves, clearer than ever. She saw their faces, vibrant and untainted with darkness, eyes sparkling with innocence. Mommy! They cried again, their voices a lifeline anchoring her amidst the chaos. Sarah took a shuddering breath. You are my light. I love you. Her arms extended, the warmth radiated and pulsed, inviting them toward her. You are not lost. Light enveloped her, narrowing the abyss around her as she stepped into the clarity of her memories. She felt every moment the joy, the pain, each one a stitch that bound them together. The shadows howled as they twisted, she could see remnants of them fracturing under her unwavering warmth. Together! Her heart pulsed strong. Together, we are unstoppable. And with that, she thrust the light further into the darkness, illuminating the abyss in brilliant white. As brightness filled the space, the suffocating grip began to release. Whispers morphed from taunts to cries of desperation, swirling into an incomprehensible cacophony. You can't win. The shadow lunged at her, reaching for the cracks forming in its facade. You're bound by this legacy. Fight it! Sarah screamed, summoning all she had learned, all she had faced. This legacy ends with me. The echo of her voice rippled through the darkness, a reminder that fear didn't define her, nor did it bind her children. Then emerged a glimmer, Jake's face a radiant beacon. Mommy! He yelled, breaking through the dark veils as hope surged forward, pulling Maddie right beside him. They looked so real, standing strong amidst the gloom that had clung to them. Join us! Their voices chanted, not laced with despair, but unity. Sarah felt the pull and anchoring force, maternal affection rivaling even the shadows. Each heartbeat resonated with their love, a power so profound that it buckled the inky void around her. The shadows shrieked in agony, their forms splintering at the seams. She reached out, hands trembling yet steadfast, the warmth flowing into her children's own small hands. They clasped tightly, a threefold bond forged in the heat of battle and love. As the abyss trembled, Sarah's voice rang out, clear and sure. We are whole. Together, we rewrite this curse. The energy surged and erupted, casting back the veil of darkness, illuminating a path ahead. The shadows recoiled, retreating as the very foundation began to crumble, bricks of despair turning to dust against the brilliant light their love emitted. "Keep holding on," Sarah cried, guiding her children closer as they emerged from the depths of darkness, the ghostly tendrils snapping and dissolving into the ether. What once loomed ominously vanished into the void, revealing the light of Oak Ridge shining down on them, a sanctuary reborn from ashes. But as Sarah collapsed onto the earth, relief washing over her, she realized something pivotal. Her family would heal, but their legacy was now theirs to rewrite, a truth birthed from their shared battles against the darkness. With the sun rising in the distance, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Sarah drew her kids close, hearts beating in unison, the hellish darkness now a distant nightmare ready to fade into memory. "Let us go home," she whispered, the warmth of their collective resilience radiating into a new dawn, threading a tapestry rich with love and light. Gone was the curse and agony, in its place lay the promise of hope and a fresh beginning. Now, as they stepped away from the shadows that once bound them, the future stretched open like an endless road. And just like that, Oak Ridge transformed, their family reborn, forever luminous under the warm embrace of a brighter day. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear every thought. And for the love of all things magical, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.